I was slouched in the shadows of my kitchen, the faint buzz of streetlights outside throwing soft, flickering shapes across the wall. The whiskey in my glass, still halfway full, caught the dim glow from the stove's little nightlight, glinting like it was mocking me. Her perfume hung heavy in the air, a stubborn ghost of the night's embarrassment that wouldn't let me go. It stuck to me like a bad conscience, even though I wasn't the one who'd done wrong. Everything had fallen apart so damn fast. One minute, we were at the bar, chuckling with buddies, her fingers grazing mine in those rare moments of warmth she still let slip. Then, out of nowhere, she's tossing her head back, laughing way too hard at his joke, Ethan, the slick guy I never really trusted, always the center of every party. And then, like a punch to the gut, she turned to me and let it rip. You know, you could pick up a few tricks from Ethan. He's got a way of making a woman feel alive. The laughter around us fizzled out. A cold, awkward hush settled over the group, broken only by Ethan's uneasy snicker and her casual sip of wine, like she hadn't just dropped a bomb. My cheeks burned, not just from what she said but from the way everyone else looked at me, their eyes dripping with pity. She didn't even blink, like cutting me down was just another Tuesday for her. I stormed out before I could say something I'd regret later. She didn't bother coming after me. An hour later, my phone lit up with her name, and my stomach twisted into knots. Part of me wanted to ignore it, but some mix of curiosity, or maybe just plain stupidity, made me pick up. "Hey," I croaked, my throat rough as sandpaper. "Hi there," she chirped, her voice all light and breezy, like we were just catching up over coffee. "You doing okay? You know I love you, don't you?" For a second, I was speechless. The sheer nerve of her hit me like a ton of bricks. Love. The word felt like a stranger, something delicate that had been smashed to bits and patched up with cheap glue. "You sure about that?" I finally growled, my voice low and edgy. Because it didn't exactly feel like love tonight. She let out a sigh, the kind that screamed she thought I was making a mountain out of a molehill. "Oh, come on, don't be so dramatic. I was just messing around." Messing around? My hand clenched the phone tighter. "You call embarrassing me in front of all our friends a joke?" "Ethan's just a buddy," she said, her tone oozing fake innocence. "You're blowing this way out of proportion." God, I wanted to buy her excuse, man, I really did, but there was this edge in her voice, a little spark of defiance that gnawed at me. I could picture her now, maybe parked in her car or lounging at home, with that smug, knowing grin she flashed when she thought she'd outsmarted me. "Where you at?" I blurted out before I could stop myself. There was a beat of silence. "Why does that even matter?" "It matters because I'm your damn husband," I shot back, "and I want to know why you're acting like you didn't just rip my heart out." Another pause, this one stretching out longer. When she spoke again, her voice softened, almost sweet. "I called because I care about you, okay? I don't want you thinking I don't." I let out a bitter chuckle. "Funny way of showing you care." The line went quiet for a moment. I thought maybe she'd hung up, but then I caught it, a muffled noise, like someone muttering in the background. My chest tightened like a vice. "Who's there with you?" I demanded. "Nobody," she said, way too fast. "I'm by myself." I wasn't buying it, not for a damn second. That sound came again, clearer now, a guy's voice, low and too fuzzy to make out, but definitely there. "Don't lie to me," I said, my voice shaking with a mix of rage and fear. "Who the hell's with you?" She didn't say a word. "Is it Ethan?" I spat, the name cutting through the silence like a blade. "Why do you always jump to the worst conclusions?" she fired back, her tone sharp and defensive now. "Why can't you just trust me?" "Because you keep giving me reasons not to." I yelled, my control finally snapping. "You shame me in front of everyone, you vanish without a word, and now you're lying to my face. What the hell am I supposed to think?" She went quiet, not a word from her end. The silence dragged on, thick and oppressive, like it was choking the air out of the room. I could hear my own breaths, rough and uneven, as I waited for her to give me something, anything, that could make this mess make sense. At last, her voice came through, so soft it was barely there. "I didn't plan for this to happen," she murmured. The whole world seemed to lurch, the kitchen walls pressing in on me like a vice. "What didn't you plan?" I demanded, even though the truth was already clawing at my gut. "I've gotta go," she stammered, her voice shaky now, like she was unraveling. "No way," I snapped, my tone hard as steel. "You don't get to duck out now. Tell me straight, are you sleeping with him? Is it Ethan?" She didn't say a word. She didn't need to. That silence screamed louder than any confession could. Then the call cut off, leaving nothing but dead air. I stared at my phone, my hands trembling like leaves in a storm, her betrayal sinking into me like a heavy, suffocating fog. I hurled the whiskey glass at the wall, where it shattered with a satisfying crash. The phone slipped from my grip, clattering onto the kitchen table. My heartbeat pounded in my ears, loud enough to drown out the faint hum of traffic outside. The anger boiling inside wasn't the quick, fiery kind, it was cold, razor-sharp, like a knife being sharpened for the job. I snatched my jacket and keys off the counter. If Ethan thought he could mock me, shame me in front of everyone, and then sneak off with my wife, he had another thing coming. My knuckles turned white as I gripped the steering wheel, peeling out of the driveway. I didn't have a plan at first, but something in me knew where to go, her favorite spot, or maybe his, that little dive bar where she'd first called him just a friend. The parking lot was half deserted, the bar's neon sign flickering, painting the wet pavement in shades of red and blue. Then I saw it, her car, tucked neatly in the corner. My breath caught when I spotted Ethan's truck parked right beside it. I shut off the engine and stepped out, my breath clouding in the chilly night air. My hand grazed the tire iron under the seat, but I left it there. Nah, this needed to be up close and personal. Inside, the stench of old beer and cigarette smoke hit me like a punch. The place was mostly empty, just the bartender polishing glasses and a couple murmuring in a corner. Then I spotted them, tucked in a shadowy booth at the back. Her laugh floated over the jukebox's low hum, carefree until she looked up and saw me. Her smile dropped like a stone. Ethan followed her gaze, his face shifting from surprise to something that looked almost like pity. That look lit a fire in my veins. "Hey, buddy," Ethan said, raising a hand like we were just shooting the breeze. "This ain't what you think." "Get up," I growled, my voice low but dripping with enough poison to make him pause. He glanced at her, then back at me. "Man, you need to take a breath and chill." I didn't give him a chance to finish. My fist slammed into his jaw, the impact sending him sprawling across the booth. The bartender shouted something, but it was just noise to me. All I saw was Ethan clutching his face, blood seeping from his lip as he scrambled to stand. "You lost your mind," he yelled, throwing his hands up like he could ward me off. "You think you can make a fool of me?" I snarled, stepping closer. "In front of my friends, my wife. You thought I'd just sit there and take it?" "Stop it," she screamed, grabbing at my arm. I shrugged her off, barely noticing she was there. Ethan took a swing, a sloppy, desperate punch. I sidestepped it and drove my fist into his gut, doubling him over. He stumbled back, crashing into a table with a clatter. The bartender was hollering now, threatening to call the cops, but it was just background noise. "Please, just stop," she cried again, trying to wedge herself between us. I turned on her, my chest heaving, my eyes burning into hers. "You don't get to beg me for anything. Not after what you've done." She flinched like I'd taken a swing at her, tears pouring down her cheeks. Ethan grunted, trying to haul himself up from the floor. He snatched a beer bottle off the table and swung it at me with a wild, desperate arc. I dodged, and the bottle smashed against the wall behind me, glass raining down. Before he could recover, I lunged, tackling him to the ground with a thud that rattled the bar. "You think you're some kind of big shot?" I snarled, holding him down. "You think you can just take my wife and walk away?" "Please, man," he gasped, blood streaked across his face. "It wasn't what you think." I grabbed his shirt, yanking him up just to slam him back into the floor. "Don't feed me lies." "Stop it," she shrieked, tugging at my shoulder with all her strength. "You're gonna kill him." Her words hit like a bucket of ice water, freezing me mid-motion, my fist hovering just above his face. The weight of what she said cut through the fog of my anger. Slowly, I let go, standing up and stepping back, my hands still shaking. Ethan stayed down, groaning, his breaths uneven and ragged. She dropped to his side, cradling his head in her lap like he was some wounded hero. Seeing that twisted my gut into knots. "You picked your side," I said, my voice flat and icy. "Don't come crying to me when he lets you down." I turned and walked out, ignoring the bartender's wide-eyed stare and the couple whispering in the corner. Outside, the cold night air stung my face, but it felt sharp, pure, like it was washing away the filth of what I'd just seen. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance, a reminder I needed to move fast. I slid into my car, fired up the engine, and peeled out, leaving her and Ethan to clean up their mess. They were made for each other. The drive home blurred into a haze, my knuckles throbbing, smeared with Ethan's blood. The rush of laying him out flat faded fast, like a firework that's gone before you can blink. Hurting him wasn't enough, I wanted him ruined. And her, she'd dug her own grave, and I'd make sure she felt the flames. Back home, I dumped the whiskey down the sink, the amber liquid swirling away. It wasn't enough to numb the fury inside me. Instead, I flipped open my laptop, my fingers pausing over the keys for a second before I started typing, a plan coming together as I went. Exposing her wasn't enough, I wanted their worlds to come crashing down. The first part was simple. Every text she'd ever sent me, every photo she'd shared, they were all backed up in my files. I organized them into a tidy folder, gave it a name that'd catch attention, and stashed it in a secure cloud drive. The trick was in the presentation. I wasn't gonna come off as the scorned husband, I'd play the heartbroken victim, because that's exactly what I was. Then I turned to Ethan. A quick scroll through his social media gave me everything I needed, his fancy job at a hotshot tech startup, his squeaky clean image as Mr. Perfect, too perfect. A few late-night emails to his company's rivals, laced with fake leaks about his shady side deals, would fix that. Anonymous tip lines for corporate fraud would make sure his bosses sat up and paid attention. But I wasn't done. Ethan lived for the spotlight, his charm, his looks, his endless connections. So I built a different kind of trap, fake profiles, juicy rumors, and just enough believable evidence to make it stick. By the time I was through, anyone who searched his name would find a tangle of stories about workplace harassment and dirty business deals. I leaned back in my chair, the laptop screen's glow reflecting the storm raging in my head. Everything was ready to blow with a single click. The next day, I went to work like it was just another Tuesday. I played the part of the steady, stoic husband, keeping my cool. "Poor guy, he's holding it together so well," my coworkers murmured. Word of the bar fight had spread like wildfire, small towns talk fast. I let their sympathy roll over me, it'd only make the explosion hit harder when it came by noon, the first signs of chaos started popping off. My phone pinged with a notification, an anonymous email had blasted out to everyone at Ethan's company, linking to a private blog exposing his so-called dirty laundry. It didn't take long for the comments to flood in, some folks stood up for him, but most tore him apart. I grinned, picturing him in his fancy corner office, glued to his screen, watching his perfect life fall to pieces. That night, I cruised by his house. His truck was out front, but her car was nowhere in sight. Maybe she was already bailing on him, typical. I parked a block away, keeping to the shadows as I watched his place. The lights inside blinked on and off, his silhouette moving back and forth like a caged animal. He didn't spot me when I slipped through his back gate, didn't hear my shoes scrape softly on the patio stones. His laptop sat open on the kitchen counter, screen unlocked, way too easy. I plugged in a flash drive, copying everything in seconds, work documents, personal pictures, even his private messages. I owned it all now. By the time he wandered into the kitchen, I was long gone. Things moved faster than I'd expected after that. In just 2 days, Ethan was out on his ass, suspended from his job while they investigated. The rumors had spread like wildfire, leaking out of his company and into every corner of his world. His LinkedIn got hammered with questions and accusations, his social media pages went silent, like he'd vanished. Then there was her. A buddy told me she tried calling, but I wasn't ready to hear her voice, not yet. She'd packed up and left our house, crashing at her sister's place, probably trying to figure out why her life was spinning out of control so fast. The real knockout punch landed a week later. I sent an anonymous package to her sister's house, a USB drive loaded with everything, her flirty texts to Ethan, photos of their late-night meetups, recordings of her giggling about me behind my back. Her family needed to see who she really was. That night, my phone rang, her voice trembling on the other end. "What's wrong with you?" she screamed, her words sharp with panic. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" "I did what you never had the guts to," I shot back, my tone cold as ice. "I showed everyone the truth. You destroyed his life," she sobbed, her voice cracking, "and you tore mine apart too." "Like I told you," I said, calm and unshaken, "you had a choice in this." "I didn't." The line went quiet, her uneven breathing the only sound, like someone realizing they'd been completely outmaneuvered. "You think this makes you better than us," she finally choked out, her voice breaking apart. "It doesn't. You're just as messed up as we are." "Maybe so," I said, a faint smirk creeping across my face, "but at least I'm the one coming out on top." Then I hung up. After the call, I sat there, staring at the phone, her words bouncing around in my head. She wanted me to feel like I was no better than them, like her cheating and Ethan's smug betrayal were somehow on the same level as my carefully planned payback. It only made me dig in harder. She thought she could hide out with her family, using them as a shield to play the victim. Not a chance. I'd make sure that safe haven burned to the ground. First, I turned my attention to her sister, Claire. She'd always been the family's golden girl, a high-flying, self-important type who'd looked down on me from the start, calling me dull, a guy with no drive. She was the perfect crutch for my wife to lean on while spinning her sob story. I started digging into Claire's social media. People like her are always careless, too caught up in their own egos to see how much they give away. In a few hours, I had it all, her job, her friends, and, best of all, her dirty little secrets. Some old posts and tagged photos pointed to an affair with a married coworker. She'd scrubbed most of it, but the internet's got a long memory that I didn't waste any time after that. Using a burner account, I fired off a message to Claire's company HR, attaching screenshots of her flirty texts and photos with her married coworker. I threw in a fake email thread hinting that her affair had scored her special treatment at work. Spinning the story was a piece of cake, the evidence was already sitting there, practically begging to be used. Then I set my sights on their parents. Her old man had always looked at me like I was dirt, convinced his daughter had settled for less. He ran a small chain of restaurants, successful enough to make him think he was untouchable. I decided to shake that up. A couple of anonymous calls to local health departments, paired with tips about shady practices at his joints, got the ball rolling. Inspectors swarmed his places within days, and I made sure they'd find something worth writing up. A little digging had turned up one of his managers cutting corners on food safety, sloppy with inventory. All it took was slipping some incriminating photos to the right people. Word spread like wildfire, health violations, hefty fines, and temporary shutdowns. His reputation, built brick by brick over years, started crumbling overnight. By the end of the week, her whole family was in a tailspin. Claire got slapped with administrative leave while her company looked into things. Her dad's businesses were falling apart. And their mom, the sweet lady who always ignored her daughter's flaws. I sent her an anonymous letter laying out every ugly detail of what her precious youngest had been up to. It wasn't mean, it was just the truth. She had a right to know who she'd raised. Word got back to me through some mutual friends that their family was a mess. Claire had gone off on my wife, blaming her for dragging her into the chaos. Their dad was raging, his loud voice supposedly rattling the walls of their house. And their mom, she'd fallen apart, crying and begging everyone to make it right. It didn't take long for my wife to call again. This time, there was no fight in her voice, just raw, broken desperation. "Why are you doing this to us?" she pleaded, her words frayed and shaky. "They didn't hurt you. They propped you up," I said, my tone cold as stone. "Every time they ignored what you did, every time they made excuses for you, they became part of it. Now they're facing the consequences. They're my family," she sobbed, her voice cracking under the weight. "And what was I to you?" I shot back, cutting through her tears like a knife. "I was your husband, but that didn't stop you from messing around with Ethan, did it?" She went quiet, her guilt pressing down like a heavy fog. I could almost hear her scrambling, searching for a way to paint me as the bad guy. "You've gone way too far," she finally whispered, her voice trembling. "You're not right in the head." "Maybe so," I said, a faint grin tugging at my lips, "but at least I'm not pretending to be something I'm not." I hung up without another word. Let her sit there, drowning in the ruins of her life. Let her feel what it's like to lose everything she held dear. Over the next few days, I heard scraps of their attempts to clean up the disaster. Claire lawyered up, trying to save her job. Her dad was working overtime to sweet-talk the health department. But it was too late, the damage was done. I could have stopped there, but why would I? They'd stood by her when she stabbed me in the back, chuckled at her snide little remarks, and acted like I was nothing. They had it coming. As for her, she was on her own now, trapped in the rubble of her own choices. She thought she could hurt me and walk away clean. She was dead wrong. The fallout from my revenge played out like a perfectly staged tragedy. My wife's carefully built world had burned to the ground. Her family was fractured, crushed under the weight of scandal and betrayal. Ethan had disappeared from the social scene, his career in tatters, his reputation shot beyond repair. It should have felt like a win, a clean, glorious triumph. But somehow, it didn't. It was late one night, about a week after her family's world came crashing down, when my phone lit up with her number. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something nudged me to pick it up anyway. "Hey," I said, my voice flat, stripped of any feeling. "It's me," she whispered, her tone so fragile it sounded like it might break apart. "Please, don't hang up on me." I stayed quiet, letting the silence drag on, heavy and thick. I wanted her to feel its weight, to squirm under it. "I'm at the end of my rope," she went on, her words spilling out like she was barely holding it together. "I've lost it all, my family, my friends, my self-respect." "That's on you," I said, my voice cold as a winter night. She sniffled, the sound crackling through the phone like static. "I know I've got this coming. I know I hurt you bad, and I'll hate myself forever for it. But I'm begging you, please, stop this. I can't take any more." Her raw, trembling voice hit me like a crack in my armor, and for a split second, I felt a spark of the love we used to have. But it flickered out fast, smothered by the memory of her betrayal, sharp and stinging. "Why should I care?" I shot back, my tone hard as ice. "You didn't give a damn about me when you were sneaking around with Ethan. You didn't care how it felt when you made a fool of me in front of everyone. So why should I give a damn about you now?" Her sobs got louder, more frantic, like she was drowning in them. "Because I'm still a person. I screwed up, God, I screwed up so many times, but you're not the man I thought I knew. You've turned into something dark. I let out a sharp, bitter laugh, the sound hollow in my throat. Dark? You're the one who made me this way. You had a choice, and you chose to rip my life apart. Now you're just dealing with the mess you made. I loved you, she murmured, her voice cracking like thin glass. Nah, I said, my words firm and unyielding. You loved the idea of me, someone safe to lean on when your little games got old. That's not love, that's just using someone. She went silent, the quiet on her end so loud it felt like a scream. I wondered for a second if she'd hung up, but then her voice came back, empty and lifeless. What do you want from me? An apology? My whole damn soul. Take it. Just stop this. I leaned back in my chair, her words settling over me like a heavy fog. I'd already won, hadn't I? She was broken, beaten down, left to sift through the ruins of a life she'd wrecked herself. But the victory tasted like ash, the fire that had driven me starting to fade. You want to know what I want? I said after a long pause, my voice steady. I want you to live with this. I want you to wake up every day and feel the same hollow ache you left in me. I want you to look at the wreckage of your life and know you brought it on yourself. Her quiet sobs filled the line, her pain spilling out like blood from an open wound. I shut my eyes, letting the weight of my words hang there. But I'm done, I went on, my tone softening just a touch. I've made my point. You can crawl off to whatever corner you find. Just don't ever come near me again. I hung up before she could say another word, the finality hitting me like a rock sinking into deep water. The days after that were calm, almost too calm. Word got around through some mutual friends that she'd left town, running from the ashes of her reputation. Her family was still in pieces, scrambling to pick up what was left after the fallout. Ethan. Nobody had seen him since his life went up in flames. As for me, I found a strange kind of peace in the quiet. The rage that had burned me up for so long was gone, leaving an empty space behind. But it wasn't the sharp, gnawing void I'd been afraid of, it was quieter, softer, like freedom. I wasn't the same guy I'd been before her betrayal tore me apart. I wasn't sure if I liked the man I'd turned into. But one thing I knew for sure, I'd taken back my life, and nobody was ever gonna take that from me again.